Hello, beloveds. I'm Lauren, and thanks for joining us for Sacred Living Conversations. My business, Sacred Living Arts, helps women awaken to the divine feminine, an energy that, when revealed, allows us to honor our cyclical nature, to flow through life, and claim our sovereignty. Many women in midlife are ripe for change, yet struggle to figure out how to make shifts in their habitual patterns physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually so that they can come to a more fluid, creative, empowered, and authentic self. So I work with women using various healing modalities to help them return to their sacred birthright, helping them create space for themselves, intentional living, and well-being. So to learn more about my services, you can find me at sacredlivingarts.com. Blessed be, and let's get started. So joining me today is Natalie Clark, and I recently met Natalie through social media, I guess is essentially how I found you. But she also worked in close proximity. So it was fun for me to reach out to her and learn about her coaching business, which I was fortunate enough to experience through a 7-day training that she offered. And I just wanted to share a little bit about Natalie. She's a dynamic motivational speaker, intuitive mindset coach, teacher, and visionary that loves to see people make rapid and impactful life shifts. Participants of her work uncover their internal blocks and are able to tackle mindset challenges from a fresh lens and leave with a clear vision of how to live an empowered life. And so the taste of Natalie that I got, she is spot on with that. And so if it's okay, Natalie, before I let you kind of introduce yourself, just so people know who they're joining in conversation with, I'd love to just create a little intention for our talk today. And so I'm going to just light a candle. I always light a candle when I'm at my desk. I don't know if it just makes me feel better. But I always love to think of the candle, the flame, as a symbol of the spirit, and that the spirit within us awakens as we create this intention. And when our own spirit awakens, we awaken the collective spirit. So settle in here and join us. And we're going to also just sort of drop in so we can be present with one another, taking a few intentional breaths. And I always love to kind of use sound as a nice portal to allow us to drop into that still space within. I feel like I have a lot to exhale. So Natalie, I know that you are a mom of 4 kids. You're a relatively newish entrepreneur, and you're in your 40s. So tell us about yourself and how are you doing it?
Oh, well, and welcome everyone. I'm so happy to be here. This is so fun. And thank you for opening with that pause and meditation, even just taking that little pause. And I was thinking driving in, one of the things I encourage women to do is we need to pause more and hustle a whole lot less. We try to get on that bandwagon, and even on our own personal growth and transformation, we think if we work harder at it, that we will get there, right? And so it's coming from a place of frantic energy. So taking the pause is so vital. And I've had to learn it, I would say sometimes the hard way. So I started out actually in the business field field, did not make it in corporate very long at all. My spiritual side and my soul was just like, this isn't going to work for you. And I ended up having a beautiful career in higher education. And the whole time I was there, I was teaching, I was guiding, I was helping inspire, I was seeing people step into their dreams. They had dreams of entrepreneurship. But looking back on my life, it was crystal clear. The reason I went into business when I went to college was to be an entrepreneur. So, unlike most college students where business is the number one major because it's undecided, right? You can do a lot of different things with business. And so here it finally has come to fruition. And so I had a beautiful career in higher education and I truly loved it. I worked with amazing people. I had amazing students. And yet my cup was sitting I felt like I was using 25% at best of my gifts. And it wasn't sitting well with me. And it was, how the universe gives you little promptings and nudges. And I realized when I forecasted 5 years, 10 years ahead, that this wasn't the life that I wanted. And it wasn't a bad life. When I looked around, I saw a lot of other people who were hustling more. I always wanted balance. But yes, I have 4 children. So my oldest is 13. My youngest is 5. I have 3 girls, and then I have a boy bringing up the rear. I also home educate the 4 kids, not 100% on my shoulders, but by and large, most of it is. I like to eat healthy. I like to take time for, taking care of my body, mind, body, spirit. And I realized very quickly that me being in a career and in the confines of what I call a societal box wasn't going to nurture my soul. In fact, I knew it was going to kill my soul. I felt a little piece of me within, and I would have all these amazing ideas, and very quickly they would get squashed because I was like, oh, I'm the breadwinner. How can I branch out on my own and make it happen in addition to what I'm already trying to do right now as a full-time working professional with 4 kids? People would call me super mom, superwoman. And I remember just getting to the point where I'm like, I'm done with superwoman. Superwoman stupid. Superwoman stupid. I don't need to. I'm already superwoman, but I'm doing way too much. So I did a lot of self-reflection, but really, truly, it was that divine nudge of, if you don't take the plunge, we're going to take the plunge for you and make you do it. So it was honoring a soul calling through sheer terror. That's the key. I'd always done well and had confidence, but I was still within my comfort zone. So for me, stepping out of the comfort zone was saying, I'm going to walk away from this career without a true path, without a true, I don't know where the money's going to come from. I worked in higher education. I had a salary. I knew what that looked like. It was very stable. And, we can get addicted to that comfort zone. We can get addicted to the stableness of it. So what I realized was, for me stepping out, it took every element of sheer guts and determination from within. And yet I knew I was not going to do it the way they would have said to do it in business school, which was, the blood, sweat, and tears, the work harder, and you have to pull the long hours. I said, I absolutely refuse to create a business. So when you mentioned the divine feminine and tapping into that dimension, and in this society, we are so programmed to be very rational, logical, analytical. Step A, step B, have the whole vision laid out. And what I realized, and this was just the intuitive messages that would come through, is you're not going to do it like anyone else has ever done that. It's not going to be your path. So don't even follow anyone. Go take one step and the next step and the next step. And, it was the most, and still is the most exhilarating ride. But the key is staying into that groundedness and learning that I actually do need to come first for me to serve my children, for me to serve my clients, for me to run the workshops and all the things that I truly love doing. I must come first. I have to feed my own soul. I have to stay grounded. I have to stay out of frantic panic, overwhelm. When I first started, I really had a market targeted at overwhelmed moms. That was my past. But I felt that I was shifting into all women need the teachings that I teach. And actually, not just women. I am focused on women, but we all need to understand how to work within our spiritual gifts, stay out of that overwhelm. So I juggle a lot, and I have done it my own way. And I just want to send that message out there that I had these nudges throughout my 30s, throughout my 20s, and actually starting in my teens. And it's like I knew it. And I remember thinking, okay, God, I'll get there. Okay, I'll get there. I kept like kicking the can down the road. And then it just it came in my face. Sometimes you just have to take the leap. You have to take the plunge. You have to do the crazy and trust that you will then receive that divine support. And that is exactly what happened. And that is what I think even if we're really, really spiritually inclined and on the path, we still want all the X's and O's lined up. And then, right, it's like we want to see it before we'll believe it, when we need to believe it and then we get to see it. So it's really working with the energetics and being in the flow. So yeah, it's been an incredible ride. And now I help women who are stuck in one or more areas of their lives.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about how I think it's so common. You're like that part of your story where you kind of like have this inkling of something, like there's something in the back of your mind sort of compelling you towards something, but we tend to wait as women. We tend to wait for sort of that midlife before sometimes it's finally time. Like it's like where the rubber meets the road. And I wonder too if that comes back to the imbalance of the divine masculine and feminine, whereas we've sort of succumbed to that that matrix that's sort of male dominant, where things need to fit in a box and we do things in a certain way. And what a gift that you're able to create your business and your world around what works for you, maybe even putting yourself first, and then all your priorities and working around that. And there's so much like flow in that. So that's just, it's so outside of the box.
It is. And, I came from I love business school, and I remember I learned a lot of great pieces, but almost nothing of what I learned did I carry forward into actually doing it. It was, I knew how it should be done, but I defied most of the rules of engagement when I've done this, which I also learned, and I encourage women to do this when you're embarking on anything. And, it really was, I remember somebody telling me, I don't know if I just turned 40, wasn't that long ago, but I remember her saying, super intuitive person, like your 40s are going to be like incredible. And I remember at the time thinking, I'm unemployed and I'm creating what now? It's like, but it was that form of encouragement. And what I found is when we step on that path, what happens is vibrationally so much within us has to shift, and we have to purge and purge. And I think a lot of what I purged was that divine masculine, and as you know, and I'm sure your listeners know, within all of us, we should have a blend of the energies. It's just that we're kind of out of balance. So I worked with a lot of women, a lot of career women, a lot of professional women, and they are pounding the pavement and they're pounding themselves right into the ground, right? Yet you can see they know they need to take time for self-care. They know they should eat better. They know they should do a yoga practice or an exercise practice or drink more water or, clear their thoughts. But it's like it's this dream and they can't quite get there, right? Mm-hmm. And that really is one of the frameworks that I teach, is really that authentic self and conditioned self. And you alluded to the matrix, and it's really everything that in the work that I do. And what is so empowering and incredible to witness is when women start shedding everything they've ever believed, thought, taken into their energetic field, so even if it's not out there, it's a very active belief system. Their subconscious programming is making their behaviors as such. And when people start having the awareness, and what has our society done? It keeps us so busy, and I believe by design, so busy. Even when you look at, I remember 15 years ago thinking this 40-hour work week, and most people work more than that if they're in their traditional roles. This is a joke. This is not how you get the best out of your employees. This is not how you create the best society. And it was always that concept that less is more. In doing less, we can actually create more. So one of my overriding themes within the work that I do and with women is, hey, where we need to be intentional about doing less. And when we do that, the moment we do that, when we consistently hold that vibration and have that awareness, when we take the pause and we have this stillness, just like you opened with just a little bit of silence, all of a sudden we start to receive so many insights, so much guidance. And it's that divine flow. I call it being plugged into the outlet. When we are plugged into our authentic self, we are actually, it's like the light bulb is on. And I see most women, and I'm going to say high functioning, successful, look at the on paper, they've got it all going on, right? And yet they're using their reserves, meaning there's a burnout coming and they're going to hit that crash. And I think that's why that midlife, those 40s are such pivotal times. I've heard that one of the biggest trends right now is women in their 60s starting their businesses. Like, I'm like, awesome, rock on, you know. It's like it took them their whole life, and people are just throwing the flag on the play of what society has told us we should be, what the expectations are. Because when I look around at women, I see burnout, exhaustion, scatteredness, overwhelm, and it's because we are not plugged into that divine source outlet, which is available to all of us. So it's learning how to reconnect and keeping that connection on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and I think what happens too is that, we put on different hats at different phases in our life. And so it's really easy to be on track and focused in on kids and, like being part of associations for school, and you're cooking meals and you're on that track and you're on that track and you're busy, and you have a purpose there. But then when that's done, you're like,
Now what?
you haven't necessarily paid attention to yourself, because there's been such an output, a constant output in that part of life, that many women who didn't have a chance to really reflect are then, maybe in their 50s and 60s, like, oh, it's finally my time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And so like and then, we want to avoid the burnout so that you can move into that phase.
Yes, yes.
And if, and not to say that you should be doing anything different prior to midlife, but I think they're just sometimes, it's just a time to kind of undo and rebuild,
Yes.
recreate, reinvent. And then if you're too burned out, if the body's in, an autoimmune response because you've just zapped your body from working so hard, you won't have the energy to really put into creating. Right. And so that's something I would really hope women could avoid. And so really it's about taking care of yourself as early as you can learn to do that. And I try to teach my teenage daughter to do that. I'm not sure, it kind of seems to just go here. But I want her to learn those skills. Yeah.
Well, and that's one thing that I see too. And I actually did a little in my Facebook group. I done a Monday mindset, I like to call them, where just some quick thoughts for the week to kind of center and ground yourself. And one of the things was like, oftentimes the universe hits us with a 2x4, and then we pay attention, right? So for some people, it's a health crisis. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to watch what I eat, right? And so, but why are we waiting for the health crisis? Why are we waiting for the spiritual crisis? Why are we waiting for our 40s? We can make it easier. And there's everything is like right now, energetically aligning for rapid transformation. So the work I'm doing today, I can even look back 5 years ago and say, we couldn't have moved that fast. The energies didn't support it. People were still dragging along their conditioning at, it's kind of like, I always use the analogy, we're going to climb this mountain. And at the top of the mountain is that view from the mountaintop, like the eagle, which obviously represents so much freedom and, just freedom to soar. I mean, egos for me are very, very, very powerful. But at this top of the mountain is our authentic self. It's a high vibrational place. It's a place that sees us in our divinity and our wholeness, where everything is in true balance. Okay. And so that energetic vibration is within us, it's coming from within us. And what happens when we're in our sulkiness, when we're in overwhelm, when we're in frustration, when we're in resentment, when we're dealing with triggers more than we would like to admit, and we're like just in this fight or flight mode, okay, of survival. And what is now happening on this planet is we're shifting frequencies into creation mode, stepping into, we are the creators of our realities. So I always say our outer world is a direct mirror of our beautiful inner world. And so it's like our teachers. So most people, they'll go into the victimhood, like, well, this happened, or this is my work situation, or this is my housing situation, or this is my kid's situation, or this is my spouse or ex-spouse situations. Like you said, we wear all these different hats and roles, and then we claim them, right? Energetically, we say, well, this is what is. And yet, what I really want women to see is that we can create something different. We can create a life without the overwhelm, without the stress. And we don't have to sacrifice financially to do it. A lot of women will say, and I said this, if I quit my job, we're going under, right? It just, and on paper, that was the truth in that reality. And, you know, somehow I had enough, I guess, guts to get over the hump of, we might lose it all. You know, it was like my back was against the wall and I had the full support of my family, but I felt that the brunt of that was on my shoulders because I chose to step away from what society would say you don't step away from. And, you know, if I only had a quarter or a dollar or maybe $100 bill for every person who said, we could never do what you're doing, like we would never do that. Like it was kind of like the shock of, you know, but yet I also had those same people say, you know, you go girl, like you're doing what nobody else can do. And it was like, it was this encouragement team. But really it is about stepping into that authentic self, that view from the mountaintop. And every single time we get triggered, every single time we want to quit, every time that overwhelm and frustration, those vibrations are very active in our beings because they're also active in the collective, right? You don't have to look too far to say, oh, all my female friends are also exhausted, overwhelmed, right? And there's a beauty in that community. It's nice to know you're not the only one. However, we get addicted. The way our bodies are made, we become addicted to our patterns, just like we become addicted to our traumas. We are addicted to our storylines. And so this is about, you know, I know in my group, I'm like, we're not sitting on a rocking chair. We're not talking about the past. We're not churning the old stories. It's this line in the sand. Where would you like to go to? What is your view from the top of the mountain? And for a lot of people, what they think is their view is kind of a diminished view because their conditioning steps in. It's like this lens, cloudy glasses, foggy. It's like looking out into the dark. We can't actually see that until we start to shed some of that. So I know, like in the work that you do with that embodiment and the meditation and the breath work, we are connecting with our authentic self every single time we do that. And that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so I was thinking while you were talking about that is, do you find that the women you work with can make that shift from kind of the conditioned self or the feeling that they're sort of controlled by life circumstances to that big leap of the higher self? What I see with the people that I work with is there's something innate there that it's there as a possibility and they know it, but there's still sometimes, like you said, you know, like where it's just things aren't quite as clear as they need to be.
Yes.
But what's so fascinating to me is really how the quantum field works, where really we have the ability to come from here, a lifetime of, I guess just identities that and beliefs that we've held for ourselves, and then to make that shift to our higher self that is sometimes someone we don't even know is
Right.
actually
Yes.
within
Yes.
us.
Yes, I love that you mentioned that. And so I teach a lot of quantum topics, especially in my second year of the program. It's infiltrated through all. One of the pillars of the programs is about developing our own intuition. I think that's a key component because what do? We look to everyone else, and I'm fine with that. Like people are like, "Yeah, you're my guide," and but yet I'm not going to tell someone else what to do. I'm going to ask the question, right? What does a good teacher do? They ask the question back and get the people to think and activate their own intuition. But I think of the quantum field, we can shrink time, right? And that is where we think if we, okay, let's say, I remember one of my first amazing clients. She has this total vibrant energy, wanted to work for herself, be a business owner, and there was some resistance. So like what you said, there's that disconnect from this conditioned life comfort zone and their higher self. And every time somebody tries to get there, the conditioned self will come in the form of self-sabotage, in the form of health issues. It'll show up in kids going crazy. Like I tell women, when you join my program, expect all hell to break loose in your life. I just put that out. I should actually put it in the agreement, right? Because it happens to almost everyone. I said, you know what else will happen? Like, because my program is a big investment, right? It's an investment that comes back to them tenfold, 100-fold. But some people can't do that because they don't even have that ability of self-worth or deservability. Okay. But I say, when you invest in the program, you might have like an influx of bills, something to get you like, why did you invest in yourself?
Mhm.
And it really paralleled my journey because I only ask of my clients to do what I also do at a much greater level, right? Like I have to continue to grow and expand and be taught, guide, led as needed. And so I have just seen the beauty of community and collaboration and kind of that divine feminine women getting together to support other women. But when I talk about that quantum, I do a lot with quantum leaping. So when people are like, oh man, this is something I really want to do, and oh, it's going to take a while to get there. And I'm like, quantum leap it. Like that's a belief. So I actually, you do a lot of energy work as well. I do a lot of energy work within the energy field because usually what's happening with women is fears. The fear layer in our field is holding so many back because fears and some people have a ton of fears. Some people just have a little, but we all have it. Okay. It's coming in ancestrally. It's coming in this lifetime. It is coming in rampantly because we have been under the matrix system, which has been totally run on fear. Okay. So we operate and everything we do is from fear. And as we go on this journey of enlightenment, the fears become more, I would say, apparent. But we do a lot of releasing of the frequencies of fears. We do a lot of the releasing of the frequencies of the thought patterns, those 59,000 thoughts a day that we think that are negative or at least not positive, right? They're the same thought patterns. And when you think, oh my gosh, how can my conscious brain track 60,000 thoughts a day? Well, you know what? It's not going to. It wasn't made to do that. So the work that needs to be done is in the field. The work that needs to be done is in the energy field and not so much in, if I write these affirmations, and I'm all for affirmations, but if your vibrational, if the vibration frequency of your energy field does not match the frequency of those affirmations, they're not doing anything. They're just spoken words. It's helping refocus the conscious mind for 30 seconds, right? It's kind of like we read a beautiful book, which I love to read books, and we learn from it. And we're like, this is the book this is it, right? If I just apply one chapter of this book, my life is transformed. And the truth is, for so many books, if we actually could do that and maintain it, our lives would transform. But what do? We get busy with life, we get overwhelmed, we get frustrated, and we go to what we know, which are our past programs. So to me, the only way to make those quantum leaps, the only way to get from point A to that view on the mountaintop is setting a very strong intention that I am going to work with the quantum field. I am going to not do this the hustle, bustle, hard way. We don't need to journal about things for hours. We don't need to meditate. We don't, what moms do? I know of no mom that can go meditate for 2 hours a day, let alone 1 hour a day. Okay. I'm all about consistency. And I do something every single day, but it's not going to be for 2 hours a day. Someday it might happen. And kudos to those who can, but it's about setting that intention that my 20 minutes, my 10 minutes, oh my goodness, I overslept. My 3 minutes is still setting that energetic vibration. And so I think what most people do is they throw in the towel. They try to run the marathon. And then when they can't run the marathon, they just give up. And really, we have to just see it as a continual step-by-step journey, allowing for those quantum leaps.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned Joe Dispenza, I think in one of your Facebook
Yes.
posts. But so in my work with helping women to awaken to the divine feminine, the access is really turning towards yourself and allowing yourself to feel. And when we're in that overwhelm or we're on autopilot, a lot of times when we're not taking the time to pause, we're not aware of how we feel. And I believe, and I don't know if this is what you work with or not, with your energy work with your clients, but in order to kind of help make shifts in the thought field or frequencies, you have to really kind of get to know those emotions like as almost a relationship, because they do have levels of frequency. And so if you're experiencing joy and happiness, those are high frequency emotions versus shame and anger, fear.
Right.
So if you can tie the emotions to the thoughts of what you desire, I think that helps to kind of make that quantum leap. But like as a culture, we're very closed off to feeling. Like, I mean, we do a phenomenal job of avoiding avoiding those difficult emotions.
Yes. And I'd love to comment on that. And I have studied a lot of Joe Dispenza. In fact, when I require books in the program, he's always on the list, because I'm like, you got to get a flavor of Joe. And some people, it's so funny, everyone's at a different vibrational level. Some people read it and they're like, I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm like, put the book away and try again in 6 months or try it again in a year. And I've seen them do that. And they're like, this is blowing my mind. So again, his work is not for everyone, but yet there is something really, really powerful. He is way ahead of the game, way ahead of the times in the work that he does. And it really talks about the brain and heart coherence, right? So the emotions and what we do, and we have over so many years, thousands of years, because remember, when we're born, we're not a blank sheet. We are coming in with a ton of energetic, we could call it baggage. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or otherwise, but we're not coming here as this clean blank slate of paper. On one hand, we are, because as soon as we start observing our parents and the culture and religion and all the educational system, all the players that are part of the matrix, we learn to assimilate. But that is not who our soul is, and that is not what the authentic self is. We have to understand that distinction. But what most people do is we shut down the heart center. Okay, we believe what other people say about us. We just are in like total compliance without checking in with our own inner authority. And so because of that, I always teach that for us to actually be able to receive, when somebody is not able to receive, whether it's on the financial front, whether it's on the relationship front, any aspect of life, there is a closed down heart center, okay? Because we don't want to open it up. It's kind of like we're out there saying, I want all these things. Here's my vision board. Here's all the things that I would love to create, okay? And it's coming from that authentic self. And yet we have a bolted door closed for business energetically in our energy field. So all these things in the world of infinite possibilities, and all things are possible here in the now. It's just that we are not a frequency match. Like attracts like. So if we're out there with, I'm closed for business, and that sign is out there, all of those things we actually desire are finding somebody else who's open for business. So, but there's an infinite supply. So the work that we do is really about the opening to receive. So I do a lot with Kundalini yoga. I do a lot with activating that, Shakti energy, and then working in the fields. But to me, any transformation to neglect the energetic component, which to me is the number one driver, is really just about singing songs, talking about it, and really going nowhere. Okay. So our conditioned selves will give us that free reign. It's like, it'll give us a leash. It'll let us think we're growing and transforming. What I always tell people is we have no idea at how powerful, incredible, amazing, and divine we actually are. And for some people, there is a fear. Who am I in my authentic self?
Yeah.
And like you said, we don't even know that person. I've had people in my program 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, it doesn't matter. And they're like, I don't even know the old me, right? They don't miss the old me. I'm like, oh, well, sometimes when we do this journey, and I tell people, they try to bring the past with them, right? They try to bring the old stories. And I said, this is about a loving separation of who we were. We honor it, we appreciate it, and it stays our done, right? That's how we have to handle our conditioned self. Like, it likes to temper tantrum. It likes to scream and holler, because when we go on that journey of ascension, it is going to try to keep us safe. It thinks if we climb that mountain, we will perish, we will die. It is actually a terrifying response. That's why people don't actually start their own businesses. That's why people don't leave the relationships they probably need to be leaving. That is why they stay stuck in the bad dead-end jobs, miserable, thinking they have no other options. And I just always want to say, but we are creators. We are creators. What would you wish to create? And then go align with that energy. And now all of a sudden, things start happening. We want to live in the miracle zone, okay? And all of us can do it today. Miracles are meant to happen, and they do happen every day. But we can intentionally create the miracle zone.
Yeah, it's funny how the intelligence within almost knows that as soon as you create change, or you want to make change, change is hard. And so the conditioned self is like, yeah, we're okay here. Let's just stay. Let's not go where it's difficult. And I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, and interesting. I wanted to just mention this because of sort of what you were touching on. Is it seems to me a lot of women are almost afraid to come into their own power. It's like they have this sense of who they're meant to be, and it's this larger than life, almost maybe supernatural, just energy that wants to just birth forth. Exactly. And they're actually almost afraid themselves about what that is. And so it's easier to just kind of keep that inside and sort of work around it in a way.
I see that all the time, and that we've been, many of us, probably most of us, have been conditioned that we are here to serve. We don't want to be selfish. We put others first, like really good principles. Mm-hmm. But really underlying that is kind of coming from the undeservability, the unworthiness. And so one of the big fears that I see with women is, what will my spouse say if I start shifting? What will my kids' reaction be? What will my mother say? What will my family? Oh my God, those family dynamics. And again, what happens is when one person in a family starts to ascend and soar, it will trigger every possible family member as an attempt, because what do we all want peace and harmony, right? And so if you've been the family where you have stayed small, I see this with many, many women. I work with a lot of women who have a beautiful violet aura, and they are meant to be very expansive, meaning if they have kids and a spouse and all those great things, that's only a small dimension of actually their purpose on the planet, okay? Mm-hmm. I had to step into that role of myself where I always love to serve at a very high level. And I love my kids. I want to do it all, right? And it's okay because there's divine um, energy that is given. And so many women, they get this divine flow of that energy, but then they try to like funnel it into like a little box of what they think they need to be or do. And what happens is then there's so much energy coming through, it actually results in drama in their life. So they actually create that divine energy when it's out of power, when it's misdirected, when they're not stepping into their potential. Their lives are virtually train wrecks everywhere they turn, and they're juggling way too much. Now, if you get that energy into alignment and you start putting that into more that life purpose, soul purpose, I'm going to step into my sovereignty and into who I really am. All of a sudden, life gets easier and easier. But women have a hard time stepping up to the plate and owning who they really truly are. There's some inborn fear of doing that. But think about it. If you think about women in the past that have come before us, part of that collective consciousness, there are women that were killed, many women that were killed for doing what we're doing today, the work that you're doing, the work that I'm doing. In fact, there are still places in this earth right now where we would get killed for doing what we're doing. So that is out there energetically. And so we pick up on that and we know, ooh, there's actually, people will say, I want to start my own business, but I'm terrified of going on a Facebook Live. There's a visibility issue. Well, it's because of that inbred fear. And it's like not real, doesn't apply to you and I today, but that is what is holding so many women back, are those fears from what has come before us in the past.
Yeah, and just to add like a couple more of those, like the fear of being heard, and not, or just the reserving their truth, the truth of what they want to say is really held reserved, and then also like even repressed like sexuality too, which is conditioned through kind of like back in those same times.
Yes. Yes.
Where that just kind of really creates a block in the sacral chakra where your creative energy is. So it's there's so many layers. It's fascinating. I love the ancestral part of that, because I think honestly, I didn't become aware of that until maybe the last like 5 or 10 years. And it was profound to think about how much of my life was being lived based on who my mother was and my grandmother was and my aunt was. And and so it's I empathize with women who struggle to make that change, because it is hard, and it's sort of like there's an upheaval. It's like tilling the soil. You have to, you have to till the soil in order to really plant seeds that are going to grow fruit. And that's hard work. Tilling the ground is hard work.
Yes. And I always think of it like in terms of we're more familiar maybe with doing a physical detox, right? And we take some good supplements, and we're under the care of a nutritionist, and we change our diet, or we go off sugar, and we have withdrawal symptoms, or we're stirring the pot up. We're doing a cellular detox so we can have days where we are feeling a little sluggish as these things move through the system. And it does clear. But the same thing happens when we do this spiritual journey, because what I tell people is like, you've got this jam-packed, teeny tiny car, if you're frustrated and overwhelmed and like you're cramming everything into it because we haven't felt our emotions, we haven't dealt with them, we've suppressed all of them, and we're feeling it in our physical bodies. I have seen over and over and over that the vast majority of health issues, it's actually coming in from the energy fields and the spiritual dimensions, right? And so what I tell people is like, guess what? You get to unpack that jam-packed car. You get to start decluttering your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, and the spiritual well-being. And we hear the phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I say, throw it all out. Throw the baby out, throw the bathwater out, throw it all out. and then start fresh, and then bring back the things that are still in alignment. But I think what people find is there's not much still in alignment when they actually start fresh. But we have to be willing to unpack that backpack. We need to release it and let it go, because what happens if we're so loaded energetically, we're not open to receive anything. And that's where things have to shift out. And I've learned that in just even the creation of my business, because anyone, and you go through this too, anytime you're a female entrepreneur, your spiritual development is going to come through your business, right? And it's going to come at a very accelerated, very incredible level. But the journey's not easy, because it comes at you, because to go to that next level, you have to be willing to purge at least an equal amount of energy. Okay. So then there's this, like you said, the change, the disruption. That's where people say, I feel like my whole life is like going crazy right now. And I said, yes, I celebrate it. When I see it happening for clients, I'm like, yes, you're that powerful. Because if you weren't that powerful, your conditioned self wouldn't give you so much resistance. So go ride the wave, ride the wave and allow the things to fall away that aren't your highest, best good. And then also trust that the new opportunities, the new people that you need to meet, they are going to find their way to you. It's universal law. And as your vibration ascends, it's like you have a whole different, playing field from which you can play on.
Oh, yes. I love that. It is. It's exciting. Yeah. So, Natalie, would you mind maybe just helping us close our time together? Thanks so much for your time today. And yeah, you just had so much great stuff. We could talk forever.
Yes, we could. But yes, I always like to, in the work that I do, we always try to open, sometimes close, with some version of breath work. And the reason I love breath work, and we can get all complicated with it, but it's really just tuning in. One of the characteristics of the conditioned self is constricted, shallow breathing. Okay, so what happens when you are running late with the kids, or stressed, or getting triggered? You don't breathe, right? We don't breathe. We're very much up here, and you can actually find yourself, you're holding your breath, okay? And so breath work opens up the channels. It allows the release of that tense energy. And what do we tell kids, athletes, before you go on stage? Take a few deep breaths. But I want to encourage all of you to be taking more than a few deep breaths, and to be doing it very intentionally. So as we close, what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes. And I want you just to feel your feet on the ground, wherever you're at. And I want you just to breathe from your belly. So on each inhale, feel that belly expanding. So long, slow breaths, just as I'm talking. And I want you just to feel like the roots coming out of the base of your feet, just like tree roots planting into the ground. And on each inhale, I just imagine that energy from the earth, which is a much higher frequency, and a frequency that we need more of. I want you to breathe that in and just feel it coming into your body. And then on each exhale, I want you just to feel yourself sinking deeper and more relaxed. There's nothing you need to do right now. There's nothing you need to think about right now. Focus only on your breath. And as you breathe in, just want you to feel that energy flowing all the way up your body, up through the top of the head. And then exhale. I think of the breath as kind of coming up the back of my spine, over the top, and then on the exhale, it comes down the front of my body. Just kind of this ebb and flow. And I want you all just to tune into your bodies right now. Our bodies are so revealing of where we carry dense, low vibrational energy. If you notice any areas in your body that are stiff or tight, as women, often shoulders, neck, upper back, we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we need not do that anymore. Breathe into any tight spots in your body. And then on the exhale, just allow that release. It usually takes more than a couple of breaths, so just allow that relaxation. And I want you to actually feel, you don't even need to know what the dense energies consist of, just using the breath, opening up the channels in the body. And then exhale and relax deeper. And just for a quick moment, I want you to acknowledge your authentic self, the part of you that holds the highest possible vibration. It sees you with your divine spark. It does not see the lower vibrations of fear and doubt and unworthiness and resentment and frustration and scatteredness and overwhelm. I want you to just step in for a moment into that lens of the authentic self. I want you just to focus on these words of joy, choosing joy, trust, being able to take risks and trust that you will be held and you will be guided, faith and hope, expansive thinking, feeling that you are invincible, that you are riding on a magic carpet square, that anything you do is a step in the right direction. There's no direct, clear-cut path. Your only job is to honor your authentic self and ask yourself in this moment, am I trying to make a decision from fear? Or am I making a decision in full faith? If you are in faith, it will feel terrifying. It will feel scary. If you are in fear, you're going to give yourself 10 pages of notes of the reasons it won't work out. And right there in that moment, you know the conditioned self is running the vibration. So breathing in and just set the intention as we close that you are open to insights that help you to align with your authentic self. It does not take years to do it. It can actually happen quickly, very, very quickly. So just a couple deep breaths. Allow that expansion, allowing that connection with the authentic self. And then go ahead and you can rub the tops of your legs as you open your eyes, stretch your arms, just taking a pause. It's always amazing. And that was just a little bit of breath work, but I really want to wish all of you that are watching this, I want you to know how beautiful you are in that authentic self. And that authentic self is standing there holding the higher ground. It's not going to ever join you in your misery when you're in your self-doubt, and it's never going to confirm that, okay? It's going to say, hey, I'm on the top rung of the ladder. I'll give you an arm, but I'm not dropping down to that level, okay? So it's up to us to make the choice to allow the divine to come in and allow us to ascend. So I just want to encourage all of you on your journeys of ascension. And Lauren, the work you're doing is incredible. It is incredible. And more women need more of you. We need to be out there spreading this mission because women are in frustration, overwhelm. They are completely not stepping into their full gifts. In fact, most are suppressing their divine gifts. The very things that we were sent to the planet to do, most women are hiding in a back closet. We need to open the closets, we need to clean out the clutter, and we need to start using those gifts that we're here to use.
I love that. And you hold such a wonderful space for women. And sometimes, we need to offer our sisters permission to take that weight off their shoulders, because it's so hard to do ourselves sometimes. Like we don't know what we would do without it there. So I think giving other women permission and holding that space for them to try something different is so valuable. So thanks, Natalie. I'll just send everyone off with a blessing. May this light illuminate that authentic self. And I hope that you hold that image in your mind, in your heart, in your womb. And blessings, blessings. Send that out to you all. Thanks, Natalie. Where can we find you if anyone wants to connect with you?
Yeah, so I have right now, my website is in development, and that's coming very, very soon. That was one of the business rules I defied. I grew this big, and now I'm going back and doing a website. But I have a free Facebook group. It's called Transforming Mindsets with Natalie Clark. I do have a 5-day workshop coming up the end of this month, March 28th. And that's a free online that people can participate in. And also the registration for that is at mindfreecoaching.com.
All right. Thanks, Natalie. I'll have all that information posted with the videos. So thanks again for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. You take care.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.